My house in Detroit never felt like a home. It was just a place where broken people lived together and fought at every chance they got. My dad drank until he couldn't stand, and my mom took pills until she couldn't feel. I was 16, which meant I was too old to believe things would get better one day, and too young to leave. Most nights, I'd lock myself in my room and disappear into the internet, where nobody could hurt me. That's how I found the chat room on some dark web forum. It was anonymous, with people talking about their shitty lives. Suddenly, a text pinged my DM from someone with the username @Susie_22. She told me she was 22 and stuck in a bad relationship. Her boyfriend made her feel worthless. I lied. I was 23 with the name Alex and wanted to be seen, too. Our conversations became everything. She was the only person who understood me and made me feel wanted. After a few weeks, Susie said she wished she'd met someone like me who cared. She suggested we meet and see if we connected in real life. I agreed. She told me to meet her at the bus stop on Detroit Avenue tomorrow night at 8 p.m. The next evening, my parents were fighting and screaming as usual. My mom was crying and my dad was yelling. I barely noticed and just waited for them to retreat. Thunder was rolling in with a storm coming. I put on my hood, left through the back door, and walked to Detroit in the downpour. The bus stop was empty, with a dim streetlight flickering. I stood there, getting soaked, and checked my phone every 30 seconds. 10 minutes later, I saw her walking toward me, with heels clicking on wet pavement. Even from a distance, I could tell she was older than 22. But I had lied too, so I couldn't actually complain. As she walked closer, I ducked my face under my hoodie. I thought I'd look at her after I told her the truth. She walked up a few feet without saying anything and stopped.
Alex?
She whispered. My heart started pounding in my chest. Susie? She nodded without turning.
Let's walk.
I kept my head down with my hoodie pulled up and my hands in my pockets. Rain was dripping off the fabric. We walked side by side, but instead of feeling giddy or excited, I felt creeped out. Something about Susie felt wrong. The silence was weird. Online, she was always chatty and warm, but in person, she seemed distant and uncomfortable. You're quiet.
So are you.
Her voice sounded strained.
You sound different than I expected.
Yeah, I guess I should tell you something. I took a breath. I'm not actually 23. I'm 16. My real name's Vincent. She stopped walking and stood completely still.
Vincent?
Yeah, Vincent Carmichael. I looked up and pulled my hoodie down. Rain was hitting my face, and she was staring at me with her face pale, eyes wide, and mouth open, like she'd been punched in the gut. Mom? She screamed, covered her mouth, and stepped backward.
Oh, no. This isn't... It can't be.
She was shaking her head. You're Susie? My voice came out strangled. You're the one I've been... We stood there in the rain, staring at each other. For a second, neither of us moved, as the realization came crashing down. All those late-night conversations and everything we told each other were just a mother and son looking for escape. Both of us were so desperate to feel something that we'd poured our hearts out to strangers online.
I need to go. I can't look at you right now.
Mom, wait! But she had already turned and ran down the street, with heels splashing through puddles. I called after her, but she didn't stop and disappeared around a corner. I stood there in the rain for an hour. I couldn't move or think. Every one of our conversations kept replaying in my head, When I finally went home, the house was dark. Dad was passed out in the garage, and Mom's bedroom door was open, but her bed was empty. She never came home. I waited days and checked her room, her phone, and everything. I called her cell, but it went straight to voicemail. Dad filed a missing persons report on day 3. Cops searched and found nothing. She just vanished. 2 weeks later, Dad got hit by a drunk driver coming home from a bar. He was dead on impact. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. I'm 18 now and living with my aunt in Lansing. Still in Michigan, but far enough from Detroit that I don't see the old house or walk past the bus stop. The police never found Mom. The case is still open, but nobody's really looking anymore. She's just another missing person who walked away from her life. But I know the truth. I know why she left. She couldn't live in a house with the son she'd unknowingly told everything to. The son who'd become her emotional support and her refuge. We were both so broken and so desperate to connect with anyone that we found each other in the worst possible way. Sometimes, I wonder if she's okay, and if she started over somewhere, if she thinks about that night, if she remembers all the things we told each other, and all the secrets we shared, and all the pain we confessed. And I wonder if she knows that I understood, and that I didn't judge her. I just wish she'd come home. But she won't, because looking at me means facing what we became to each other. And that's something neither of us can ever undo. As a sophomore at the University of Michigan, I resided in the South Quad dorms, which featured a shared bathroom down the hall and walls that were barely thick enough to provide privacy. It was late October, and the rain was absolutely pouring all evening. Being bored, I was mindlessly surfing the weirdest parts of the internet on my laptop, and somehow ended up stumbling across this website. I don't even remember how I got there. I probably clicked through some weird Reddit link about internet mysteries or something. The page loaded slowly with a black background and white text in a simple layout that looked like it was made in the 90s. The headliner was titled, "Roleplay Costumes, Authentic Selection." I figured it was some cosplay site with Halloween stuff or maybe vintage clothing. But when the images finally loaded, something felt off. The clothes weren't costumes at all. They were normal, everyday clothes, like a blue polo shirt that looked like something from Old Navy, regular jeans with a plain belt and a floral sundress. It seemed to be regular stuff you'd see at Target or Walmart. I was confused, thinking, why would anyone buy these normal clothes for cosplay? Then, I noticed brownish stains on the clothes. The spots seemed faded, like someone had scrubbed them over and over but couldn't get them off. The fabric looked worn and stretched at the seams, having been used hard. I scrolled to the very end but couldn't find any description, price, or size lists. I kept scrolling anyway. Something about it was hypnotic in a sick way. I discovered the drop-down menu at the top reading Age Group. The options listed were 18 to 25, 26 to 35, 36 to 50, and 50 plus. And at the bottom was 5 to 10. My stomach dropped. I clicked it before my brain could tell me not to. In seconds, images of children's clothes appeared. There were tiny shirts with cartoon characters, little princess dresses with lace trim, small jeans with elastic waistbands and dinosaur patches, and kids' shoes with Velcro straps. All of them had those same brownish stains scattered across the fabric, worn thin and faded from washing. One photo showed a pink shirt with Dora the Explorer, smiling on the front. The collar was stretched out, with dark stains around the neck and shoulders. The description box beneath read, "She passed in sleep, didn't struggle much." I felt sick and closed the laptop. The daunting realization that I just found a site that sells dead people's clothes or maybe murder victims for sale. I sat there in the dark, listening to the rain hit my window. I didn't realize how much time had passed until a loud knock made me jump. I called out, asking who it was, but instead of receiving answers, another knock echoed in response. My heart started hammering in my chest, and I tried to keep my calm. "Who is it?" Still, no answer. But this time, the knocking stopped. I walked to the door and put my eye to the peephole. Outside, the hallway was empty, with fluorescent lights buzzing. I tried changing angles, but couldn't spot anyone. I waited for a few seconds before retreating to my bed. Just as I lay down, the knocking came back, and this time it got way more aggressive. Whoever was knocking had no hesitation in breaking down the door. "Stop it! I'm calling security!" The knocking grew more aggressive. Along with thumping the door, the man on the other side started kicking it as well. I couldn't muster up the courage to check through the peephole. Instead, I grabbed my phone, dialed campus security, and put it on speaker. "Someone's at my door and they won't stop knocking. South Quad, room..." I paused and warned the intruder that the security guy would be on his way soon. Suddenly, the knocking stopped again. Nothing happened for a minute. No knocking, no kicking. It was as if I were alone again. I disconnected the call and sat down on the bed, drenched in sweat and panting in fear. Just when I thought it was over, a yellow piece of paper slid under my door. I could hear loud, retreating footsteps, like someone was running down the hallway. It got fainter and fainter until it vanished entirely. I waited 5 more minutes before opening the door with my phone in one hand and a ready-to-run stance. The hallway was empty, except for that yellow paper on the floor. I picked it up. It was a sticky note with 4 words written in black marker. "How old are you?" My hands started shaking. I just stared at those words. Campus security showed up 10 minutes later and searched the floor and checked the security cameras. The footage showed a tall guy, dressed in a dark red robe, knocking and kicking on my door. His face was covered by the hood of the robe. They asked about the note, and I showed them and explained the website. I tried to pull it up on my laptop, but the page was gone, with a 404 error. The security guy took the note and said they'd investigate, and told me to call if anything else happened. I didn't sleep, and kept checking the peephole and watching my door. The rain eventually stopped, but I barely noticed. The next morning, I tried finding the website again. I searched every variation of the name and checked my browsing history, but found nothing. It was as if it had been completely scrubbed. I'm in my junior year, living in a different dorm with a different roommate. The man was never seen around campus that night, but I still think about that website with those stained clothes and the children's section. And I think about whoever was standing outside my door that night. They knew I'd been looking and wanted me to know they knew. It shakes me up to this day when I try and make sense of how that person found my location so quickly, just because I clicked on a mysterious link leading to a horrifying website. The internet is becoming a very dark place these days, and no one is safe. I went to college in Madison, Wisconsin. I lived in the freshman dorms my first year, then got a university-owned housing apartment with my roommate, Marcus, for my sophomore year. Marcus was quiet and kept to himself mostly. He was a computer science major who spent a lot of time online. We were just 2 guys splitting rent. One night, I was messing around on my laptop and going down internet rabbit holes. I clicked through some dark web forums and found this website, which looked like a cooking blog. It had a black background and a fancy font. The header said exclusive recipes, with photos of plated dishes that looked gourmet and had a professional presentation. I started reading the recipes. The first few seemed normal, until I noticed the protein listings. Instead of chicken or beef, it cited meat, with specific preparation notes. For younger subjects, marinate 12 to 24 hours. The texture is more tender. For mature subjects, slow cooking is recommended. The more I read, the more I felt my knees tremble. Female subjects, ages 20 to 30, yield the most flavorful cuts. Male subjects require additional tenderizing. For subjects under 18, seasoning should be minimal to preserve natural sweetness. It was detailed and clinical, with instructions on butchering, which body parts had the best texture, how to remove bones, cooking temperatures, and plating suggestions. This was a site with cannibal recipes. Marcus walked in and dropped his backpack. "Yo, what you looking at?" "Dude, check this out. It's so cracked up." I turned my laptop toward him. He leaned over and started reading. His face went pale in seconds. Jesus Christ. Right? It's gotta be fake though. Maybe someone created this just to spook people. Marcus didn't say anything. He kept reading and scrolling through recipes, and his expression turned weird, as if he were in a trance. "Marcus?" He blinked. "Yeah, that's disturbing. I'm gonna go to bed. Night." He went to his room and closed the door. I closed the laptop, feeling gross, and tried to forget about it. Over the next few days, Marcus changed. He'd always been quiet, but now he was distant and distracted. I'd catch him staring at people on campus. When I asked if he was okay, he'd snap out of it and say he was fine. The following week, multiple girls filed formal complaints against Marcus. This girl, Emma, from our building, reported to the campus security that Marcus had been following her everywhere she went. They gave him a warning and told him to stay away from her. But it didn't stop. Another girl named Sophia said Marcus had cornered her in the laundry room and asked how much she weighed and if she had any diseases. When she tried to leave, he blocked the door and kept asking questions. The college board got involved and called Marcus in and threatened suspension if he didn't stop harassing women. I confronted him. "Dude, what the hell? Why are you being creepy?" "I'm not. I'm just curious." He went to his room and locked the door. A week later, there was a frat party. I went, but Marcus said he was staying home. I didn't bother him. I got back at around 2 a.m., tipsy and tired. My key wouldn't work because the door was locked from inside with the deadbolt. I knocked. "Marcus, open up!" He didn't answer. I knocked louder and put my ear to the door. My whole body just seized up. Muffled crying was coming through, followed by a scream of a woman that got cut short. My blood went cold and my heart started hammering. I pounded on the door with both fists. "Marcus, what's going on?" He wouldn't answer, so I ran downstairs and found a security guard doing rounds. I told him someone was in my apartment and was screaming. He followed me up and knocked. When nobody answered, he radioed for backup, and another guard showed up with keys. They opened the door. The living room was empty, and Marcus's bedroom door was closed. They knocked. When he didn't open, they broke it down. A girl was in the corner, tied up with extension cords and duct tape over her mouth. Her face was bruised, and she was crying. I recognized her. It was Sophia, the girl from the laundry room. Security untied her and called the police. She was shaking and could barely talk. She said Marcus had grabbed her outside the library and dragged her to our apartment, where he tied her up and hit her when she struggled. "Where is he?" the guard asked.
He left. Said he'd be back after getting supplies.
The police arrived with more questions, and Sophia was taken to the hospital. We waited until Marcus showed up. He was carrying shopping bags from the hardware and grocery store. When he saw the cops, the security guards, and everyone standing outside our apartment, his face went white as a sheet, and he bolted. The police chased him and caught him 3 blocks away. When they searched the bags, they found a meat cleaver, heavy-duty plastic sheeting, industrial cleaning supplies, zip ties, spices, marinade ingredients, and fresh vegetables. During questioning, Marcus admitted that the website had triggered an obsession in him. He wanted to know what human meat tasted like. He'd been planning it for weeks. Stalking the girls was part of the process. Sophia was his target. He'd planned to butcher her and cook her meat that night while I was at the party. If I hadn't come home early, and if I hadn't heard her scream, he would have done it. Marcus is in prison now, with a 25-year minimum. Sophia's in therapy, and I moved out of the apartment the next day. I can't even look at the building. I've graduated and live in Chicago now, but I still think about that website to try to figure out my role in the whole mess. If I hadn't shown it to him, would any of it ever have happened? It makes me wonder how many other people made the same mistake I did. How many have found that site, and how many others got the same ideas Marcus did. How many of them actually followed through and were really successful.